In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read ancient tomes, the order of the Abercast. We are the brave and bold.
The Ages begins with the shocking story of Cain and Abel and the journey of violence and revenge spanning thousands of years, following Cain through his cursed life from an ancient invasion of malicious angels to the American Revolutionary War. A masterful, compelling journey through time, The Ages delves deep into arcane knowledge, myth, and legend. The art is stunning, and the story takes you on a journey where mortals, immortals, angels, and demons are all forced to deal with the folly that is God's creation. It's a beautifully dark and gritty ride through history. This 4-part story follows the astrological procession of the ages and how each 2,500-year age parallels major changes in the development of Earth's inhabitants. Cain's blasphemous struggle with the divine and sacred tyrant God will create and crumble empires, shape history, and cause a cosmic cataclysm.
The Abercast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. Violence.
This is the Abercast. Oh, fuck, man. Fuck, hold on. Okay, welcome to the Abercast. The Abercast is the official podcast for Stigmata Studios, where we produce comic books. Our stories often feature the occult, history, and the paranormal. Last week we did we talked about the Albigensian Crusade and the genocide of the Cathars. So I thought that before that we did like the tanks of World War II. So I thought that we get into something a little bit deeper, a little bit more crazy today. So I thought we'd jump down a little rabbit hole here. We go ahead and dissect Lady Gaga's High Ritual at the Super Bowl halftime show. That was done on February 5th. Okay, so if you are looking for Illuminati transhuman race wars, you're listen to the wrong thing. But I got unique insight to this, and whether you buy it or not, it gets fun to look at this stuff. So I hope you stick around and join me. I want you guys to go ahead and pour yourself a gin jihad. If you don't know what that is, it's a formula for a weapon of mass distraction. You get a mason jar, you fill it full of ice, 2 shots of gin, a couple lime slices, and fill the rest of that sucker up with tonic water, and you're good. You're good to go. So it's also named after one of my graphic novels, The Gin Jihad. All right, so flash those devil horns, triangle up your eye, And let's get into this thing. Cataclysm. All right, here we go. So there's not really a direct correlation to high rituals in my comics yet. But I've been studying all this stuff for well over a decade now, like on a professional level. So sometimes you just watch stuff and you see like the code behind it. It's kind of like the Matrix, when the guys are on the Matrix and they're watching the code, but they can like see what it what it looks like when you're in the Matrix. It's kind of like that. So, I know there's some controversy about these kind of things. I don't know if you're gonna buy this or not, but you have to kind of. I think that it's fun when I watched the Super Bowl just to see this halftime show because I'm not a football guy. But I used to work security, so I've been to enough Super Bowls. You know, like I know it's like I've ran security in the main concourse of 3 Super Bowls in my lifetime. So, I know what the atmosphere and stuff is like. So I kind of watched it just for this halftime show. And, so I'm watching it, I'll get into it in a minute. So first of all, we have to ask, so what is a ritual anyways? According to Wikipedia, a ritual is a sequence of activities involving gestures, words, and objects performed in a sequestered place and according to a set sequence. Oh, I'm having a little bit of computer problems right here, everybody. So some things that are like rituals, you think they're weird or whatever, but like different rites of passages, baptisms, sacred cleansing, like when you got dunked when you were a kid, or you got sprinkled, whatever you're talking about. That's a ritual. Coronations, like any kind of like king or queen when they sit on the throne with that rock from Scotland, the magic rock from Scotland is like underneath their chair, like that's a ritual. And like communion's a ritual. When you step back, when you think about these things and you step back and you're kind of like looking at them, they could get weird real fast. Think about communion and like what it means. And I kind of touched on this in the last episode, but like you're running through like this this ritual. You're running through like this mock thing about like eating your dead god. On the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is you actually believe in transmutation or transubstantiation, and once it gets in your belly, it actually turns into the meat from your dead god, which is really weird. So, that seems a little dark. We're going into a little bit dark. So, but yeah. So these things get weird when you look at them, and you kind of try to divorce yourself culturally from it. Like the eating the dead god thing it's just weird. I was raised Southern Baptist. My mom was a Southern Baptist and my dad was a non-practicing Catholic. So yeah, we're eating dead gods all over the place. So the next question. So who the heck is this Lady Gaga anyways? And my answer to you is, what are you, living under a rock? Like, I don't pay attention to pop culture for the most part, and I still know who Lady Gaga is. I think it's pretty unescapable. But, without getting, like, personal, she's this real super popular recording artist who is known for doing weird music videos and also these weird rituals. At the VMA a few years ago, she did like a blood sacrifice where she like hung herself, and also like she wears like meat clothing. I don't really know what that's all about, but another thing just to kind of keep in mind, like kind of put in your pocket about this woman is that she like hangs out with Maria Abramovich, who you might know from the John Podesta Pizzagate thing. She's the she's the magic user that's running around doing all this spirit cooking fiasco. So if you say like that, like she hangs out and she's influenced by the lady who does the spirit cooking, then like, yeah, the meat dress and the blood sacrifice doesn't seem like it's that big a deal. But yeah, so this is like, that's the kind of like group, that's the kind of set she rolls with. So the last kind of prerequisite element that we should talk about before we get into the actual halftime show itself is this witches' Sabbath called Embolic. It's usually observed on February 1st or 2nd, sometimes on the 31st, but because it was the Super Bowl, I believe she just did it on the 5th. Or we need to just open ourselves up to the idea that she did it on the 5th. So Embolic says it's the first sign of spring. It's like the halfway point between the equinoxes, and this is like when you're getting ready. The whole idea of this thing is that the light's coming back. The sun's returning, the light's coming back. It's the kickoff to the agricultural New Year, or the agricultural season. This is back in the old days before the Christianized world and the Western world was full of pagans, people that worship nature and all this, is that the New Year was actually the spring. The New Year, because that makes sense, because it's like the world is dying while it's the wintertime, and then the spring is like when the new life comes along, and that only makes sense that's when New Year was observed for hundreds of thousands of years. It wasn't until the church came and changed it to correspond with Jesus's birth, but the actually, it's funny. This is where April Fool's comes from, because after the church made the New Year, after they changed where the New Year lined up, a lot of the pagans and stuff didn't go for it, and they still celebrated New Year's in the springtime, and they were called April Fools. It was a way to like psyop them till they were like pagan shaming them for calling them April Fools. I just saw that. So a lot of the things with Embolic is it's actually all about the coming of the light, the returning of the spring. One place that I found called it the crone. It's the time that the crone returns to become the maiden. Witches plant their intentions with actual seeds. And it's just a time. It's just a time of transformation. One of the parts of this ceremony or this festival or whatever is this idea of spring cleaning. So it's just like opening up these doors to like let the light's about to come in, and like it's about to like sweep out, the filth you've been living in all winter. So I thought it was fascinating that the idea of like these open doors is a thing. And we're going to get into this ritual in a minute, but it started with like that huge door opening on the stadium. But yeah, it's preparing to move to another space. Another thing is like bonfires. We'll get back to the bonfires. And another thing is crystal mass. And crystal mass has all to do with, candle mass, not crystal, candle mass. And it has all to do with like ritual magic using candles of different colors. And this is just another way that another, like, one of these subsect groups used it. And there's another one all about bridges or something. Oh, God. So when we're going to go through this, and we're only going to talk about the actual halftime show. So, it's very tempting to be like, oh, they wheeled out, President HW was there, and that's all part of it. They're letting us know that, it's an Illuminati skull and bones. Like, that's not it. She doesn't control that, I don't think. So we're just going to focus on the actual halftime show. The actual, from the beginning of those doors opening to when it ends, is what we're breaking down right here, right now. So I hope you guys are with me so far. And I hope I didn't bore you with Embolic, but these are just things I know. I've been married to a Wiccan for years, so I'm familiar with this. This is why when I was watching these this thing, I was like, oh, I get it. So here, just hang tight with me. I'm gonna go get. Hold on. I'm gonna go get a little refill. And we'll come down, and we'll get into this. We'll get into this thing right now. All right. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that this is no way disparaging Lady Gaga. I believe that the amount of athleticism and talent that she has is amazing during this thing. She's jumping off of roofs and swinging around like Spider-Man and flying everywhere. And it's one of my kind of guilty pleasures is I actually like a couple of her musics. So there's that. And I think that she's hot. So, like I said, I just want to go into this thing, not being a hater at all, just kind of letting you guys know what I see when I look at this thing. Okay, so here we're going. We're going to get started. Remember, Imbolc is all about the light returning, or the coming of the light. So, okay, yeah. So the door opens, and like I said, that's like the part of the beginning. Or one of the different, like, rituals or whatever, one of the different ways to celebrate Embolic is, like, the opening of the door. And and then we start out with Gaga, and she's all in her androgynous mode. Like, she's got, like, super short hair and, like, these big bulky shoulders. And, the androgynous thing is another aspect of that is, hermaphroditism. Like in my comic The Ages, I have like a flashback to the Garden of Eden, and I used like the old Kabbalah or Kabbalistic kind of ancient Hebrew story where Adam and Eve were born when they were created. They were actually the same being, like a being with 4 arms and 4 legs and 4 eyes and 2 mouths and 4 nostrils and 4 ears. Like the thing in it, the being was kind of like too powerful, so he had to split it up. So we got to get like the flip side of the same coin here. It's just like in the first Prophecy movie where the guy's talking to the detective or whatever, and he's explaining how the angels have both sex organs. And he's like, well, lucky. Well, that's pretty lucky. And he's like, not really, because usually biologically neither of them work. You wind up being like sterile. So you get this idea of like this androgyny kind of leads to this hermaphrodite idea. Let's see, where am I at? These notes are so little, I wrote them so tiny. Okay, so she's singing God Bless America. She's standing up there, and the words that she's singing is she's like, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from up above. So, it's nighttime out, and she's looking up, she's pointing up to the sky, and she's saying, like, look after, this land of America with the light from up above. So it's like literally right off the bat, she's talking about this light. She's talking about like the sun. She's referring to the sun. And that's when all those drones come up. And the drones come up and they're all lit up or whatever. Well, this is like echoing once we get inside the stadium later on in her performance. Like these idea of like these little handheld lights come out, and they remind me of candles. So like this whole candle mass idea where they're doing this ritual magic with the different color candles and stuff. This ancient like weather divination. So, like the basis form is like Groundhog's Day, right? But like here they're actually talking about like the weather. They're actually doing a ritual about the weather about to change. So they have these like dim flickering lights that I equate with these candles. So maybe not so much on the drones, but like later when you get inside, the idea of like when you Stairway to Heaven's on, and you have your when everyone smokes cigarettes, like back in the day, and everyone has their cigarette lighters out swaying to the music. Like, hold on, I got a burp. My soul's fucking trying to get out. Okay, so she bails once she does the light from above thing. She bails. Now this is her falling from the sky. So we're gonna have a little bit of equivalency here, because I believe that she's using. I think she's gonna be using kind of a symbol for the coming light, as well as symbology for the sun. She's going to use them. She's going to swap them out differently, but it's the same idea. So her falling from the sky or whatever is like Lucifer falling from the sky, and Lucifer being called like the light bearer is also synonymous with Venus. And the reason, well, I'm going to get into that in a minute, but so like Lucifer is another name for Venus. Venus is another name for Lucifer. So her falling from the sky is like, it's like miming or like echoing Lucifer falling, but it's also echoing. It's also about the beginning of like wintertime. So this whole thing is just like, it's going to walk us through. So once she starts falling, you can tell she's falling because she's like wiggling, like she's whoa. And this is the first time we get to look at the actual stage. Now the stage, you see it has like its squares. So if you guys remember back to my talk with Robert Sullivan, I said that like whenever I see the checker floorboard, my ears perk up. So this was close enough to get me to like look at it. Even though it never turns checkerboarded, it's just squared off like it's checkerboard. And then also there's these two towers, I believe, probably like the two pillars, Boaz and Yakin from the Temple of Solomon. This is symbolic pillars. Actually, I have a character, a stone golem, who was named Boaz, who's the strength stone. And these stones, they're like the kingly powers and the priestly powers, and they're like, they hold up the vault, like they hold up the sky going into Solomon's temple. And, in Solomon's temple is where you see like the black and white checkered boards too. And everyone's going to be like, oh, you're talking about the Masons. And like, just because the Masons use this thing doesn't mean it's Masonic. Like they got this shit from somewhere too. So I'm talking about King Solomon. You can keep all your Mason shit over there. So it's odd that they have these two pillars, and when she comes down from the sky, she comes down on one of them. And I don't know if I made a note about what song she's singing or whatever. No, we just see the floor. She winds up flying from one pillar to the other pillar or tower, however you want to describe it. I'm sure people are saying they represent the World Trade Center. I don't know. I would not ever say that, but we'll just call them a tower because they actually kind of look like towers, but I believe they're representative of the pillars from Solomon's Temple. And when she's flying from one to the other, she actually says she's going to get him hot. She's going to show him what I got. So it's like this is the first kind of inkling that she's like manifesting like Helios or like the idea of the sun. Yeah, Bringer of Light. I already did that part. Okay, so she's singing Poker Face, and I'm like, what's that song all about anyway? I just assumed it was about a blowjob. I don't know how close I am on that. I don't know. If you guys know, tweet me. Let me know. I don't know. All right, then she flies to the actual stage. So she goes from like the kingly pillar to the priestly pillar. So this is her. The two pillars hold up like the vault of heaven, or what however you're symbolizing it. So the sun, like the sun's hanging out up there, and then she comes down to the floor. She flies to the stage as these as these fucking pentagrams start lighting up. She's got a couple pentagrams, I think, on each side of the stage, and they start lighting up. And the pentagram, this is actually, to me, it's one of the validations that I'm looking at, because the pentagram is associated with Lucifer. Do you know why it's associated with Lucifer? It's because it's also associated with Venus. If you look at, from our point of view, how Venus moves across the sky, it moves across the sky and forms this 5-pointed star. So it's not like literally a pentagram, but like if you look at it, you can see like people make sigils kind of looking things about like the way it floats through the air, and it looks like a star kind of like with a bulb at the end of it. But if you're looking at it through like ancient eyes, or you want to look at it with like a geometric precision, it forms like this 5-pointed star as it moves through the sky, throughout our year. So, I'm not the kind of guy that says, just fucking Google it, but really. So it's associated with Lucifer and it's Venus, and she's got these pentagrams everywhere. And later on, they have these pentagrams shaped like a bat symbol, but it's got the star, the 5-pointed star, and they just have them like rolling over the massive crowd, just projecting this light of this star just zooming across the crowd as these neon 5-pointed stars are blinking and caught on fire. Okay, so the song "Born This Way" comes up. This is the political part. This is the political portion of the show. She finally gets her hair down. She's looking a little bit more feminine. And there's totally open fires going on. In the Imolek part of the podcast, I said that there's bonfires are associated with this. I imagine if you're gathering in like the pagan times, you would want to have a bonfire any time. But that's just me. Hold on for 1 second. Come on, get down. Witchcraft, voodoo. All right, so yeah, she's getting a little bit more feminine now, and then "Stop Telephoning Me" comes on, and she goes over to one of the pentagram stage parts, and as she's singing, she grabs this silver like scepter with like this starburst thing on it. Like when you look at shitty, when you look at shitty carpet or used like shitty carpet ads, and they have like this starburst, and like in the middle of it, it's like 69% off or whatever it is. Like she grabs this thing and she's dancing with it. It's got like this starburst thing on the top of it. So I just thought that was worthy of note. Because we're kind of like, we're talking about stars and stuff. So I thought that was interesting. Also, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about choreography or costume design because I'm not in, like, I don't know much about interpretive dance or like fashion, but like, at this point or a little bit later on in the performance, like a lot of her backup dancers have like these silver jackets on with like these starburst looking things on them. They're spinning around dancing, and then they've also have like one like guys all dressed in black, like kind of chased like dancing after her, you know, which I guess could be like, you know, the power of winter or like the time of the crone, you know, and it's her like moving through. Like I said, this is why I don't interpret dance moves, because I don't know. Is it kung fu? Is it, you know, all right. Spotlight. Okay, so here's the flashing shapes across, and then like all of a sudden, like it seems like everybody in the whole stadium has like these dim flickering different color flashlight, like the, I know they're not lighters that people hold up, but that's what it reminds me of. Or like, you know, like candles with like the cups over them to keep the wind off of them, but they all have them, and they all start like, it's all like choreographed. Oh, what's the time? It's time to get ill. Yeah, my actual note is these dudes are dressed funny. All right, so this other song comes on. I'm not sure which song it is, but it's like she puts on, just out of nowhere, she disappears, and then she comes back on, and she has this gold vest on with like rays coming out of it, and that's like, it's totally her like being the sun, but she only leaves it on for like a little bit. And while she has it, she's playing a guitar. You guys remember what that is? Like in the 80s, like there were these keyboard players, and like the guitar players were getting more pussy than them. So what they did is they mounted a handle onto their keyboard and slung it across them like it was a guitar. And they called it a keytar, and they played it that way, and the guitar players still got more pussy than they did. So it didn't last very long. But she's like playing it. That has nothing to do with it. It's a total rant. I'm sorry about that. And sorry about the French. I'm not really. But so she has this yellow golden vest on with like rays coming out of it, and she's playing the keytar with like one hand. And I don't, like I said, I don't know what song it is. Like maybe Just Dance, I guess. Is that a name of one of her songs? I'm not sure. But all the little candles are across the whole stadium now. Like every single motherfucker's got one of these candles. Then it goes to a different song. I'm not sure what this song is either. I'm guessing it's just called A Million Reasons, because she says it's a million reasons or 100 million reasons. And here she's sitting, like she's moved down, and she's sitting in like this circular piano organ thing, and all of the people with the handheld lights that are on the field now are all like rotating around her, and all their lights are gold. And like all the lighting is like yellow and gold lighting on her right now. And it's like the sun has finally returned, to the center. And we'll actually see this again. But I believe that, and she does this move, it's fucking hot, where she stands up and she fucking like straddles the piano that she's playing for a couple minutes and then kicks it out, like showing off her gams. Like I said, I find her attractive. Okay, and then there's more of the sun and the other people like rotating around her, creating like this idea of like the sun's return to the middle. She's like the middle of the galaxy or the universe right now. It's actually, it reminds me of those Muslims circling the Kaaba in Mecca, like how there's like just like millions of them just like running around this thing like lunatics. So I think that this is actually where the ritual's over. We saw it from the fall. We saw her work her way through heaven, across the dance floor, and then she winds up in this touching soulful music playing like her piano, and like everyone's just circling around her, and like with this bathed in this gold light of the symbolizing the sun. I think that this is where the thing is over. However, you guys remember the original Alien movie where she she gets in the space shuttle or the escape pod or whatever it is, and she thinks that the alien's on the big ship, and she escapes and blows up the big ship, and you're like, oh, it's over, and like the music starts playing, you think it's over, and then you find out that the fucking alien has stowed away in the escape pod with her. And it's like this whole it's like the beginning of the miracle of the fourth act in movies. So the sun rotating piano thing is like the end of the ritual. However, this is like the fourth act. It's like the end of Aliens. And it's like a little microcosm. It's just like it's like a synopsis. It's like a summary of like the whole fucking thing. So what happens is Bad Romance starts playing, and she runs out after doing a costume change, which I don't think was a costume change. I just think she took her onesie off that she was wearing. I think she had those shoulder pads under there the whole time. But she runs out, and she's fucking fired up. And she's like, yeah, come on, Super Bowl, that's where it's at, or whatever she fucking says. And she jumps on the stage, and she tells you right off the bat what's up. She goes, Ra, 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 Ra. Like, that's the Egyptian sun god, is Ra. In the video for Bad Romance, when she does it, she actually, like, triangles her eye when she says Ra, 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 Ra. The Eye of Ra. So she's telling you all about the Egyptian sun god while she's dancing around. There's fucking giant flames. It's like napalm shooting straight up in the air the whole time. Like, we're talking about the returning of the spring, the sun time, the light's coming back. These gigantic flames are shooting up. They cut to this outside shot of the stadium where there's just a wall of fireworks going off everywhere. All these little fucking candles are everywhere. Everyone in Dallas, where are they at? Dallas, everywhere in Texas has one of these fucking candles in their hands. And when she ends up at the end in the middle of all her dancers who are all kind of rotating around her, and she's elevated up, doing her dance. Again, this is her saying that Helios, the sun has been returned, the light has returned. She's kind of being the sun. And then the coolest geeky magician part for me is at the end where they're like dancing all the way up to like the edge of like this stage. You can't really see what's underneath them, but she stops and she drops the mic, which isn't the magician geeky part. But the idea is she's like, Super Bowl 51 or what? I think that's what she yells. and someone throws a football into the air, and she jumps off and catches it, falling off camera, restarting the whole cycle all over again. This is letting her know this cycle never stops. Like, she just, is just moving. It'll eventually move back into wintertime again, and we're going to have to do this whole fucking thing next year to bring it back. So that's what I saw when I watched this halftime show. I know it's not as fancy as transhumanism and race war and the Manson family, but to me, this is interesting. If you like the show, I would love it if you were to share it. If you want to support the show, I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about fucking Blue Aprons and all this shit. Like, if you want to support the show, the best thing to do would be buy a couple comic books. You go to stigmatastudios.com. You can find some graphic novels there that are also on Amazon, or you can find some smaller comics over there on Indie Planet. All the links are on the website. I imagine listening to this doesn't make you want to go and buy razors or fucking try on new underpants. So why would I bother doing that? You know how to support the show. You know how to support me.
Stigmata Studios presents The Scorpion Strikes. In this comic book, a terrorist called the Scorpion is transported to a secret CIA prison. He quickly turns the tables on the guards and administrators and releases the prisoners. A well-armed anarchist called Constituent Zero assembles a team and fights to take the prison back. This story is a dark political action thriller. The Scorpion's actions set the stage perfectly for the Jin Jihad. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, The Jin Jihad, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com. Stigmata Studios presents The Test of the Scorpion. In this comic book, while the Jin Jihad is raging on one side of the city, the terrorist called the Scorpion sets a secondary attack in motion as he obtains a small tactical nuclear bomb. A mysterious, ever-living warrior called Cyrus the Dead Guy steps forward to test the faith of the Scorpion and his lunatic followers. This is an action-adventure story. It's a bit of swashbuckler that wraps up the Jihad stories. Available on Indie Planet. Get more info on The Scorpion Strikes, The Jin Jihad, The Test of the Scorpion, and other titles at stigmatastudios.com.
Sign up to the newsletter. I'm not as active with the newsletter as I used to be, which is probably good for a lot of people that are on the newsletter. But I like to get on there and shoot you guys some stuff every now and again. You can find me on Facebook, Stigmata Studios. You can find me on Instagram, Stigmata Studios. You can find me on Twitter at JONNYAXX. Like I said, stigmatastudios.com is probably the best place to find me and all my stuff. You can check out my other podcast, I do a monthly podcast called Red Horse Radio with a horror author and Nelson W. Pyles and a comedian named Melanie, Tempting Melanie. If you guys are looking for how to follow this fucking mess up, you want to find some more podcasts, you can go to society-13.com. We have Prog Rock, Prog Watch with this Prog Squatch. It's all about the prog music, the modern prog music movement. You can find Dangling After Dark if you're into porn. Other gentlemanly like items are discussed on the Caveman Mafia The whole Caveman Mafia podcast network actually is over there. You could find, if you're looking for stories, you can find the Ninth Story podcast. You can find The Lift, which is a podcast with dramatic storytelling. The Wicked Library, which is also it's awesome. It's like Tales from the Crypt, but in your ears. And, you know, awesomer. Yeah, so we got a lot of stuff to listen to over there. Queens of NC-17 was like my illegitimate child full of 3 foul-mouthed, dirty chicks reviewing horror movies. So you go find them, and yeah, I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of shit too. Kettle Whistle Radio. You can go find David Fairhead over there, David J. Fairhead. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of stuff. So go check out society-13.com. Remember to check out stigmatastudios.com. If you like the show, you don't have to rate it. You don't have to review it. You just share it. You know, if you want to reach out to me, whatever. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing next week. So sorry, I can't drop a tease. Yeah, so there you go. Thank you, everybody. I hope my magic formula has served you well. And always remember, rah, 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 rah. Come on, hurry up. I gotta go watch Doctor Strange.